are you a Geordie? Am I allowed to say
Yeah,
that?
I am. I'm from Newcastle. And you're
I
a
have a funny
Teessider.
So I'm from Billingham.
All right.
I'm so glad you said a Teessider, because everyone goes, "Are you a Geordie?" And I'm like, "Oh, you wouldn't say that if you actually knew." Like, we could talk about that. But when I lived in the UK, I got moved. I worked with Northern Electric, and I got moved up to their Newcastle office, and the local pub was the Balloon, and it was when you could go drinking in your lunchtime, and I was sat at my desk, and my boss said, "Why, Amanda Man woman, do you want to go to the Balloon for a beer?" I went, "What did you just say? I can't understand you." It was
Man,
like,
woman is such a big, I say that all the time. Oh, come on, man, woman. I say that all the time. Yeah.
man, woman. Anyway, I'm from like 40 mile away, and you need a translator. This makes no sense.
So how did a
I was fluent by the time.
end up in Texas?
So I don't know, like, I didn't want to stay in the Northeast. I've got to be honest. I was ready to. I was always that person. And I got an opportunity for a job in Hampshire. It was just it was when the tech boom industry was happening, and I was in IT. And I also have, most of my family are from the south of England, actually, from Hampshire. So I went to live with my gran. It was brilliant. Like, it was the best. Imagine living with your gran and a heat in your bed for you, and doing you like a bed and breakfast style breakfast every morning. It was the best. So I stayed with her, worked down there, and I'd actually met somebody, like, he was Scottish, and he was working in Tilbury, super smart guy, and he decided he wanted to, and we were dating, and he decided he wanted to do his MBA, and he got into Harvard. And he asked me if I wanted to go, and we'd been dating 2 years, and I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. That sounds good. Because, you know, when you're like in your 20s and you don't care. So we moved to Boston to live. 9/11 happened just as soon as we got there, like literally the week after. It was scary as anything. And then we had a kid. We got married there, got married in Vegas, shotgun wedding. Then we moved to, he got a job working in a bank, Scotiabank, which is a Canadian bank, moved to Canada for 15 years. And now he's the head of the US for the bank. He runs the US division, and the main office is in Texas. So this is a temporary posting for about 4 years. So, and we like moving around, you know, we're sort of a little bit like that. Yeah. So
we've done the same. I've been in Scotland, Spain. We spent 6 months in Toronto, which was amazing.
Where did you live?
In Toronto. We stayed in the Annex.
Oh, so that's where I was, Little Italy.
Amazing. Yeah. So were you a personal trainer there?
So I actually got my personal training at Loughborough University. They did a 2-year diploma. So I did that in my 20s, moved and never did it as a job. It was just always like my passion project. You know, I was always interested in it. And then I did and then we moved to Boston, and then I did some more, and I just kept collecting like diplomas and certifications, you know. And so then by the time I moved to Toronto, I had a baby, and then I had another one. And then when the kids were at school, I started going to the gym, and I could see the mums in the gym copying me and stuff. And so they said, "Will you just do a class?" So I thought, oh, okay, then I'd always avoided it, because I was thinking as soon as I start doing it as a job, I might lose interest, you know, that way. And so I did it as a job, and it just flew. It took off. And then when I moved to Houston, I didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't want to build up a business with the idea that I was only going to be here 4 years, like in person. So I started doing lots of fitness writing for publications, and that's sort of what led me to the book.
And so, mega fit. When the menopause came, it must have been a breeze.
Ha! Next question. Oh my God, if only. And you know, there's that misconception out there that if you're fit and healthy, you're going to breeze through it. In fact, it's the message that some fitness professionals are saying, and it's a bit disingenuous, because we know that you know, genetics play a huge part in this. It isn't just about if you're fit and healthy. For sure, I'm pretty sure that some of the symptoms aren't as severe, but you know, it takes a lot to make up what your menopause experience is going to be like. And so mine was horrendous. Like, it literally handed my ass to me on a plate, and I just didn't see it coming. And I was in peak fitness. I literally was full of myself. I was early 40s, thought I was like, the dog's bollocks basically, because I was like fit and healthy, and I was telling people, do what I do and all will be good. But I didn't talk about menopause in any capacity because I didn't even know what it was, honestly, in my early 40s. So I'm going to be 50 coming up in a few weeks. So in my early 40s, I was like, okay, I'll just get through my 40s, and then I suppose you have menopause in your 50s or whatever. I'd never even thought about it. And I'd never heard of the word perimenopause. It never even entered my vocabulary. And so when I started having symptoms that completely changed my quality of life, like to the point where like I became a different person completely, and I know you understand, and I know you hear this all the time. But I'd never heard of this, and I'd never experience any sort of like feelings or sickness or feeling quite as poorly as this in my whole life. And initially I just thought it was like a virus. I had vertigo and lots of nausea, but it kept reoccurring with no rhyme nor reason, like not with any like sort of consistency, because I'm a total data nerd, and I would record everything. I started to feel feelings of real impending doom, like real sadness that I couldn't shake off. And so I was clearly going through a depression as well. And 2 years of seeing doctors, medical specialists, MRI scans, CAT scans, you name it. Like I had so many different specialists looking at me, but not one person looking at me as a whole person and my symptoms as a whole person. And it actually was a gynecologist that I'd gone to for a routine checkup that recognized it straight away and took the time to speak to me and understand me and validate everything that was happening, and gave me like a reason and said, this is perimenopause. And I was like, what? What does that even mean? And hence starts my menopause journey. And it's very similar to lots of other women. That's not an unusual story, right? To be dismissed by the medical profession because they just don't know. It's not that they didn't try and help me, they did.
Mine was the same. I had about 2 years, and it was my husband who was Googling how to look after hot flushes. That just says, oh, by the way, everything you've been through for the last 2 years is menopause. And I was like, what? Like, no, I've just got irregular periods. That's it. Hot flushes. The rest is just life. And he's like, no, the rest is menopause. But
can we clone your husband? Can we like get your husband and clone him and give one to every woman so we have that support? Good for him.
But I would have thought, we have this thing that America is always go-getting, always ahead. And yet it sounds as if their healthcare is no better than the UK's when it comes to menopause.
So I actually was in Canada at the time. I'm a bit of a nomad, and we did speak about this. I don't know if it was recording or not because I've been chattering away for ages. I was in Canada at the time, and I was very happy with my healthcare. It wasn't that I wasn't happy with it, and they were trying to help me. It's just we know the education isn't there for general practitioners. And when I'm going to a neurologist, he has no information about the sexual hormones of a woman. And we know in the US as well that only 20% of OBGYNs, like who are supposed to be our experts in female health, only 20% of those go through any menopause management training, which is shocking. And the fact is that's actually an opt-in course. It's not a mandatory course for them as well. They have to choose to want to do it. Now we have an organization over here called the North American Menopause Society, which is the same as the BMS over there, and they have now a certification that practitioners can do, and they're nearly always gynecologists. And they can become menopause certified, and they have a repository, a database similar to the British Menopause, where you can go and find a practitioner. So there is help out there, and they are forward, advanced in treatment options and stuff. It's like the luck of the draw whether your doctor's open to hearing about it or not. And a lot of doctors still have that misconception that breast cancer causes cancer, so that HRT causes breast cancer, so they won't prescribe. Women get refused all the time and get issued antidepressants as a normal over here. Same as the UK. The story's the same.
It's exactly the same. Yeah, it's just echoing everything that we hear about women over here. So did you go on HRT? Did you have any problems getting it in Canada, sorry?
So when I went to my gynecologist and he recognized that I had vestibular migraines, that's what I was like struggling with, and depression, he said, right, so I can help you and I can give you hormone replacement therapy. And I went, I don't think so. Like, I just shut him down straight away, because I had at that time never heard of perimenopause, as I said, and I certainly had the preconceived notion that HRT was dangerous. So why would you offer me? I was actually a little bit like, wow, you're not forward thinking as a gynecologist. And so he offered me an antidepressant, which off-label benefits can help with some of the vasomotor symptoms of menopause. Although I didn't ever have those, I've not had hot flushes. I'm touching as many woods as I can, and that actually did work for me, and it was enough. It was a valid treatment option for me. And when I came to the States, I started to have like new symptoms, and we know that that's the thing now, like symptoms come and go and fluctuate, and one of the symptoms I had was incontinence. So I started to struggle from vaginal atrophy, and that was like, what? I've had 2 kids in my late 30s, granted, but I could jump on a trampoline basically 6 weeks afterwards. Now I'm going out for a run and I've peed myself the whole way around. I was horrified, and went to a pelvic health physiotherapist, which I encourage every woman to sort of like, have in their arsenal. Like, just make sure your pelvic health is good and working well. And there was some issues there with hypertonic muscles, which means they were too tight, not too loose, and they weren't engaging properly. So the whole system wasn't working down there. But there's definitely signs of atrophy. There was some there was dryness and some breakdown type thing. And so I went on a HRT then, and actually have struggled personally to find one that suits me. I haven't taken well to HRT. Some women don't, and I would gladly be on it longer and for the rest of my life, knowing the benefits and the health, advantages of taking it. I'm actually now on the lowest dose HRT that's completely available, estrogen ring that you insert in the vagina. I don't know if it's all over there. I take that with progesterone, which isn't the micronized, because the micronized progesterone didn't work for me either. Made me go crazy. And I read Nick Panay's research on progesterone and it not suiting all women, and I just was like, maybe I'm just that sensitive one that it doesn't work for. So now I'm on something that I feel helps me. I don't really have many symptoms now, though, that I'm post-menopause. I'm 49, and for the last year I've been post-menopause, and so I'm not very symptomatic, but the vaginal atrophy is something I want to like be really on top of.
You talk about that quite a bit in the book. I thought that was such a good section, because I'd just been talking about it the day before with somebody, and I was like, what can I give them to help? And when I was reading yours, I was like, aha, here's the book that can help me. I mean, you are really, really honest and open in the book. So how did Menopocalypse come about? I find it very hard to say, which I will just pull up here for proof. Yes. How did it come about?
But it's not hard to say. It's not hard to say if you think of the apocalypse. So it's just Menopocalypse. Menopocalypse. Some people can't say apocalypse, though. Like, I'm convinced the zombie apocalypse will happen, and so I was already prepared for that, but I wasn't prepared for this one. And so I told you that I moved from the Canada to Texas to live, and I had a personal training business in Toronto that I actually didn't want to take to Houston, because I'm only supposed to be here temporarily, and I didn't want to build up a big client base just to let them go again. And so I started doing lots more fitness writing and writing for different publications, found that I really enjoyed it. And then I realized that the research out there on menopause in the fitness world, like in my world, was non-existent. None of the certifications or diplomas that personal trainers or nutrition coaches get touch on menopause at all. There's very few research papers in the scientific community that talk about menopause from a fitness and health nutrition. They're all young men, young 20-year-old men, or in hospital old men, actually, with some women scattered in. And it was a little bit frustrating for me to be going through all of these changes, to have this wealth of knowledge about exercise and nutrition, but not be able to sort of apply it to me. And in fact, the fitness world has this narrative: women and men should just train the same, there should be no differences. And it's an outdated narrative that's been pushed by many male trainers. And I'm just like, no, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong, because we have so many barriers and obstacles that come our way that we need to pay specific attention. And so I started writing about it, knowing that over the years, our literature has evolved for women's health. Like, so, I mean, if you go back 10 years, there was nothing on postpartum. And now it's like, there's so much information out there. It's brilliant. And even through pregnancy and after pregnancy, it's so great. And then the next step is over 50 and seniors. Like, there's this big chunk missing. So that's what I wanted to write about. And I also wanted to write about menopause from that angle, because I was so tired of the menopause books out there. I don't want to just read a menopause memoir. I'm not interested in listening to you rattle on and whinge on about how bad it was and how now you're running through the fields in a floaty white dress because life's wonderful. It's just not real to me. On the flip side, there was these heavy medical books that were just, what our brains are like. Our brains are just compromised, and I couldn't take it all in. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you had alternative medicine books that promoted non-proven strategies for getting through menopause. And I am very much about finding the facts out, evidence-based protocols, or things that were like super flippant and just making it a big joke. And so what I wanted was a hard-hitting real book that did talk about my experience, even though I've just poo-pooed people who do that. But that's not the main part of the book. The main part, I talk about my experience, the medical community's attitude towards it, things that happen in midlife, like how it collides with other things in midlife, like divorce, highest rate ever, at this age, empty nesters, the squeeze generation, all of those things. Why we put weight on, only because people ask about that all the time. I put my vagina on the line for you all. I talk about all of the vaginal health. I actually was going to call that chapter, what was it again? Let's not beat about the bush. And I thought that was really funny. But my editor was like, well, the bush is just the front, and don't you talk about everything inside? It was like this really funny email back and forth. And I'm like, sure, I'll change it, but it's still funny. Anyway, and then the second half of the book is solution-based. So the first part is what, and the second part is how. And I broke that down into 4 menopause hacks. And I encourage a woman to build her toolkit, because as you know, and you talk about, we don't go through this the same way. We all have our own different experiences. And so I wanted you to just take bits of the book that worked for you. So I focus on exercise, and I'm a strength coach, and I am a huge proponent of strength training for so many reasons. And I go into a whole chapter about that and provide you with a 12-week workout program that's an at-home, thankfully we're in a pandemic, so people are working at home, strength training program. Nutrition, I don't just tell you what to eat, I tell you how to eat. I tell you how to understand what the body needs and how you identify those cues and build up behaviors and habits for successful fat loss and weight loss, if that's your goal. But not just that, like what the body needs from a fuel perspective and a nutrition perspective for aging, and after menopause. It's so important. The next 2 chapters are one, stress management and sleep. Yeah, we all know about that. And then just what we know from the research, and then what we can do to help. And it may help, it may not. What worked for me, what works for others. And then the last chapter I wrote with a psychologist, and I actually think it's one of my favorite chapters, but it sounds really naff when you talk about it, but I loved writing it because it helped me. And it's all about building a resiliency mindset as we age, and based on psychological analysis and mindset protocols, working with values that drive you in life and also your strengths. if you live sort of and focus on these ideals, it makes aging and your mindset and going forward easier. It just does. It's proven. And I get a lot from that chapter. And that's basically it, really. And I encourage people to put it up, pick it up, put it down. You know, it's a go back to book, I think, right?
Yeah. What I like about it is it's very holistic. It looks at your whole body and, like you said, your mind as well. You know, a lot of these, I'm with you on the menopause memoirs, when it's just, you know, I went through hell and so I went off to a fancy spa and took HRT and now I feel better. And I'm like, well, that's great. I can't go off to a fancy spa and HRT. And the thing is, HRT isn't agreeing with me. So I need practical help. And when I read this and they're in the white dress floating through the fields, and I'm like, that's great. I'm still bleeding every few weeks, so I can't wear a white dress. You know?
Well, I think I say in the book, don't wear white jeans, just in case. Yeah. But you know what? The thing is, that's the point, right? I've been in the fitness and wellness industry for long enough to know that when I post something on Instagram or Facebook, that people don't care if I've lost 7 pounds and I've got abs and I can do this. What they want to know is what the problem is and how I can help them and what they can do. And if you write a book that's just about your experience, there's only a tiny part of that that's going to be helpful to women. Yeah. You actually need to be very specific and you need to give them practical advice that they can take and run with. That's what I think.
No, I totally agree with you. These books where you can empathize, and it's nice to see that somebody else has gone through what you've gone through. But I'm always like waiting for and now what? You know, I need
that's exactly right. That's exactly right. In fact, I should say, and now what do I do? Yeah. That's what I should have said in the book, because it's what we need, right?
And that's what I like, is it is very much split up where your first half is about your experiences, medical, and then the second half, I mean, we are full of exercises. I do love that you tackle weight gain, because that is my big bugbear at the moment. I'm piling on the weight. So it is really, really helpful. There are exercises that I'm certainly going to start doing.
Yeah, and you know, I definitely, of course, I'm a strength coach, so I push that, and we know there's research that backs reasons why you need to do it, and we can talk about that if you want. But I think that one of the reasons I really emphasize on it is because, you know, as women going through midlife, we start to have doubts, and I do talk about this, and we lose our mojo maybe, and some self-confidence, our self-esteem, and we know that happens. It's like a phenomena that happens, and there's a very much a mindset, like I can't do that. Like I used to be able to do that, but I can't do it now. And I'm very much about women telling women, yeah, well, actually, yes, you can. You're more than capable of learning new things, of improving your health, and you don't have to start big. We're all beginners. We were all beginners at something. So I do, like, so we're not really going to talk about this in the show, but I've had coronavirus, and I had these long-term symptoms that wouldn't go and left me exhausted and barely able to get through the day. And so I approached my exercise like an ultimate beginner. And it's sort of what I talk about in the book. And it's like doing fitness snacking, like just saying, you know, I don't have to do a full 45-minute workout. Like, why don't I just do 10 minutes and try and do like some bent over row and some squats? Why don't I just do a couple of sets of those and see how it feels? And then go for a walk. Like, just start introducing it into your life, and you'll start like getting curious. That's what happens when you start doing something in a small habitual way. Then what happens is you go, oh, I wonder what would happen if I did 15 minutes today, or I wonder what would happen if I added in an extra set or increased the weight. And that's how you start to grow and build your confidence again and build that self-esteem.
What I love as well is, like, I go to the gym and I see women who really don't want to do weights because they don't want to get big. And what I like is people like you who are saying, actually, you need to do weights, you need to do all the load bearing so that your bones are stronger and you are much better. And that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to end up looking like a bodybuilder. No.
It's fun. Don't you think it's funny how we, like, in our 40s, 50s, we've changed the way we view our body? Like, so definitely in our 20s, 30s, it was about how we look, to exercise, to look cute or whatever. I can't remember. It's so long ago. But like now, like I literally exercise for my health.
Mm-hmm.
And as a byproduct, if I look good, then and you usually do start to look in your own eyes better, because your confidence helps you feel better, right? You know, like how you project yourself when you look in the mirror definitely helps when your mindset is in a different place. But yeah, it's all about like health, and you have to really shift to that focus, because we know as we age, and especially post-menopause, that 1 in 2 women are going to have a breakage of some bone. We know that in the US, 40,000 women die every year as a result of breaking their hip. 40,000 women a year. That's crazy. And that's more than all women who have breast cancer. And that's because we've got treatments, and you know, women are living through breast cancer now, but there's no treatment that can help women. And these are usually older women in their 60s plus. So it's a smaller subset. And as soon as you do strength training and the muscle pulls away from the bone, that's what happens, that stimulus, you can create bone growth. Like, so it's actually a way to reverse osteoporosis, osteopenia, which is the lead up to that. And also it helps build lean muscle, like you were saying. Like, so when you build lean muscle, you're protecting your skeleton. You're like creating a buffer. And so I just think that even just focusing on like that, like moving forward, like you can do that for your health. And also when you have more lean muscle mass, and lean muscle mass, just to like clarify what that is for everyone, is the difference between muscle and fat weight wise in your body. So you actually actively want more lean muscle mass and less body fat. That's the difference. And when you have a higher rate of lean body mass, you're protecting your body against cardiovascular diseases, obesity, diabetes, as well as Alzheimer's, when you have a healthier body weight. And so all of those things are all interconnected. And I just think that the misconception about getting big when you're working out is it should have been pushed aside long ago. I mean, we don't have the physiological makeup, the hormonal structure to get big. And especially in menopause, after menopause, it's harder to build lean muscle. And it doesn't happen overnight. Like building lean muscle, I've been doing this for 30 years. I'm still building muscle. You have to keep working at it. And so the danger of you getting big and bulky is not there. So,
if you could give one message to menopause women, what would it be?
Well, it's just to don't let it define you. It's really hard when you're in the thick of it and you're feeling sluggish, you're feeling like you've put too much weight on, you're feeling so symptomatic you can barely get through the day. Like, it's not always going to be like that. I know that when I was in the thick of it, I just was like, so God, like if I live to 90, have I got 40 more years of this? Is this how it's going to be? I mean, we do know after perimenopause that things do start to calm down a bit, but you may have some symptoms that carry on. I mean, lots of women do, but it doesn't feel as overwhelming. I know from like research, and I also know from personal, personal reflection as well. So just keep chipping away at those healthy habits, and just know that you're not just helping yourself through perimenopause, but you're also building yourself up to be bulletproof as you age.
That's brilliant. Thank you.